How are you? You well? I hope so. So this week's Instagram Live, which is something that happens every Wednesday at 6 p.m. UK time. I'm talking to somebody that I'm a massive fan of. I mean, shit, I say that every week, right? I'm a massive fan of whoever I'm talking to. But this week, it's really true. No, I mean, it's always true. No. But High Contrast is joining me this week, who's like an esteemed figure in drum and bass. Someone that's just paved the way for the genre to break out of its little underground shell. You know what I mean? Yeah, High Contrast is an amazing artist. He's remixed so many people. It's ridiculous. Hi, Rahul. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Zelda. How's it going? You're back indeed. So am I. Hi, Siona. How are you? Vinayaka, how are you, bro? Good to see you. But yeah, so like I said, High Contrast is someone that has really broken down the barriers of entry. For the listener at least, with in terms of drum and bass, you know, drum and bass can be quite a sort of tough nut to crack. And Lincoln High Contrast production is something that I'm a massive fan of, breaking down those barriers. You know what I mean? And he's right here. There you go. Hey, Tarkib is here. Hi, Josie. How are you, bro? Right, let me find Lincoln. Where is he? I'm going to request him to join me. Hi, Osmani. How are you, bro? Good to see you. And I'm going to send him a request. Hi, Keshav. How's it going? Wow. Is that Nixon? Or is that Chairman Matt? No, that looks like... What is that? What, bro,
That's Hitchcock.
It's Hitchcock. Bro, you have to move the camera a little bit up so we can see your head.
Yeah. I was
Hello.
trying to get my team in there.
I can't believe I thought it was Richard Nixon, bro.
Yeah, I mean, Nixon had hair.
There you go. I mean, wait, it kind of slipped back towards the end.
Yeah, true.
Speaking of hair, how's yours doing? I mean, the frame's kind of cut off on your forehead, which is kind of
do you want me to push the camera further back?
Whatever works for you, bro. If you want to keep Hitchcock in the frame, that's up to you.
I'll try and push it further back.
Or maybe pull yeah, there you go.
I've also got one of the Garbage Pail Kids there, and Phantom of the Paradise.
That's amazing.
Might be obscure reference for some. But,
see, I don't explain Phantom of the Paradise to me.
Well, Phantom of the Paradise. This is the exact foot I wanted to get off on here. You know, this is me all day.
Cool.
Hello, by the way, and you know, nice to see you.
Thanks for joining me, by the way, and watching me drink. This is wicked. Yes.
I have brought a drink myself, but as I'm sure you know, I don't drink. And,
I was going to say, yeah.
But so what it is vanilla cream soda. That's as wild as I get.
Get that sugar vanilla rush while you can, bro. But yeah, sorry, you were explaining.
So yeah, Phantom of the Paradise is a film from 1974, directed by Brian De Palma, who made most famously the Pacino Scarface. Yeah. You know, the first Mission Impossible movie, and you know, many classic movies. But in '74 he made this movie that was a rock opera, you know, one of those weird '70s musicals that was a rock opera, and it came out the year before the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right. Was it as bondagey?
No, but yeah, it's still a little bit of kink to it. But yeah, it was mainly a PG kind of movie. But it was a total flop, you know, right. And it was just too weird, and you know, did nothing. But then it became a cult film, and you know, I don't want to harp on too much about it, but it's one of my favorite films. But the interesting thing for music lovers like ourselves, and pop culture in general, is that it's a musical about the music industry, and I think is the best depiction of the music industry on film.
What's it called? I'm going to write this down.
Phantom of the Paradise. You know, it is very dark in its depiction of the music industry, and I think anyone
that's kind of accurate, right?
What's that?
It's kind of accurate.
Yeah, I think anyone who is you know, thinking of signing with a record label should watch that movie, because yeah, it'll give you some idea of the nefarious machinations that go on at record labels. But the music in the film is by Paul Williams, who he wrote hits for the Carpenters, even David Bowie.
Is he a relative of John, or they're completely unrelated?
I think unrelated, but
right.
He did the score for Bugsy Malone, and I mean, because of his involvement with that film, Daft Punk loved this movie, and that's why they got Paul Williams on their last album.
That's sick.
And I mean, this is a Japanese bear brick figure, but if you look, you see the Phantom in the movie is wearing a helmet, and that is where Daft Punk got the whole idea for their look of like wearing kind of a leather outfit with a helmet on, and they went the route of it being like a robot helmet, but in the movie it's like a silver helmet, and
that's all De Palma's fault, basically.
That's where Daft Punk got their whole kind of shtick from, and in the movie he's like surrounded by racks of analog gear and synthesizers, which in 1974 was like totally space age. I mean, yeah, if you do a Google of it,
I'm doing that right now, bro.
You'll see, and I mean, you can just see the influence it had on Daft Punk's whole thing. And in the movie, his voice is destroyed by the evil record label, so he has to use a vocoder to be able to be heard.
So I'm just going to show everyone
Daft Punk using a vocoder, it came from that as well.
There you go. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's it.
That is nuts. Wicked.
The other thing that happens in that movie is that there's a kind of house band that the record label have that they use to cash in on whatever the fad is at the moment. So at the start of the movie, they're doing the whole Beach Boys thing.
That sounds so familiar.
Sorry, no. At the very start, they're cashing in on the 50s revival, the kind of Happy Days era type 50s revival that happened in the 70s. So they're doing a kind of a rock and roll homage, and then you see them a bit later in the movie and they're doing the Beach Boys thing, and then later again in the movie they're doing the whole kind of Alice Cooper type shock rock thing. And at that point the band they've got like ghoulish makeup on, and it's like this black and white makeup, and basically that is where Kiss got their look from.
Wow.
And I mean, Gene Simmons has since tried to say that, oh no, Kiss came out first, but I mean, if you look at the timelines, Kiss happened just after Phantom. So I mean, that is, if you watch the movie, it's so much like a Kiss show at one point. There's no denying it. The third big influence this movie had is that again with the Phantom, he's wearing kind of the black leather, and he's got a helmet on, and he's got a voice box on his chest. Well,
that's vocoding, right?
What's that?
That's a vocoder, right?
Yeah. And Brian De Palma, the director, I mean, he was good friends with George Lucas, who then a few years after this movie made Star Wars, and that is where the whole look for Darth Vader came from.
No.
Yeah.
No, because I've got the original. I've got a Darth Vader figure of I've forgotten his fucking name now. The original concept artist that drew all of the
wow. I can't think of his name. Yeah.
Hang on. And I've got the unfinished Star Wars poster from '75 that he started and didn't finish because he passed. And I've forgotten his art. I'm going to get his name because I feel like an idiot talking to a film buff like you and just like I've forgotten the name.
No, I mean, is it Roy?
Oh,
something?
Macquarie, of course. Macquarie.
Right, okay.
Of course, it was Macquarie. Yeah. So I'm not sure about that. I mean, you must have, because there's also the helmet from Valerian, the French comic book, the original comic book. But that's a fascinating reference. Shit.
So,
I have to watch this film.
I think the movie is, fun in an interesting movie worth seeing in its own right. But then just the connections that, like, this movie that is somewhat forgotten has had this massive effect on pop culture.
That's amazing. I really totally only know De Palma for Scarface, really, and of course Mission Impossible. That's it. I haven't really delved into anything else.
I mean, I'm a huge De Palma fan. You know, he did Carrie.
Ah, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
You know, and then he did a great run of thrillers in the early '80s where he did Dress to Kill, Blowout with John Travolta, and Body Double. And I mean, it was largely because of Blowout. That was a favorite film of Tarantino's, and that's really what led him to casting Travolta in Pulp Fiction.
So, one thing I'm going to ask you is that as someone that loves film so much, and that was your first passion, why the fuck did you go into producing drum and bass?
Yeah, it's something I've often asked myself, and because the thing is, I got into films when I was basically 5 years old, you know, and by the age of 10, I had started making my own films, and you know, I was already saying, well, I'm going to be a director, you know. And
On what were you using? Just like the video camera that was lying around at home, like
yeah, I mean, just a completely basic, you know, cheapo home camera, you know. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the frustrations, was that I wanted to make films, and then you're shooting out on this domestic digital camera, and this would have been about 1990, and you know, I look at the footage and I'm like, why doesn't this look like the movies that you see in the cinema, you know?
Yeah, always in your head, I guess.
And I guess I've been hung up on aesthetics since I was a very young age, you know, and trying to grasp something from the past, you know, because a lot of my favorite movies are from the past, you know, and even today, it's almost impossible to make a movie that looks like that genuinely looks like it's from, say, even the 1970s, you know, because the film stocks are different, the lenses are different, the whole industrial process is different, and it changes it in these minute ways that maybe most people don't notice or care about, but to me it's not exact. So maybe being this kind of control freak perfectionist, this plays into why I kind of moved away from film. So I started making films as I was 10, and then when I was 15 I left school, or 16, to go and study, to do a kind of practical media studies course in a college, and then went to study film at university. And, you know, basically from the age of 10, everyone was like, well, you know, he's going to be a film director. Like, you know, that's what my teachers and parents and all the adults I knew, you know, were kind of like, yeah, this is great. He's got this passion and vision. But then I think what happened was maybe I peaked too early with that, because I think it's a real important time when you're around 16, 17. And I think the fact that I fell in love with drum and bass at that point, instead of coming across filmmaking at that point, I think that's what imprinted it in my heart, you know?
Yeah.
And so couple that with the frustrations of trying to make a professional looking film.
Yeah.
And also, I guess to make a film is such a long process and involves so many people.
I was going to say, it's a massive compromise,
you know,
right?
It's about compromise and collaboration. And I think I probably mellowed, maybe. I don't know, you have to speak to the people who've worked with me, but I feel like I've mellowed somewhat on that. But certainly back then, I was so militant about it, about my vision, that I just felt like, you know, by the time I went to study film at university, I was already kind of tuning out, and the course I was on wasn't very inspiring, I have to say. And so it was like film was going down, and then my interest in drum and bass was just igniting. And I basically realized that, you know, with drum and bass, I could make a track on my own without any interference from anyone else, just on my own time schedule, and be kind of self-reliant, and that was just hugely appealing to me.
That's awesome.
And
that's what crossed my mind, because having been on a few sets, I'm sure you have, it's a hugely expansive project where other people's voices have to be heard. You can't be dictatorial, or you can, but you won't get the right results, obviously. And so being a drum and bass producer is kind of solitary, or being a producer. I'm sorry, I just wanted to Ollie James in the comments is saying, what's the fundraiser for? Let me explain. If you donate on the bottom bit, it goes direct to Crisis, which is a homeless charity. We don't see anything from it. It goes direct to, it's just an experiment. So if you feel like donating for the homeless, please do. There's no obligation at all. It's just there. So yeah, there's, you know, it's there if you fancy it. Otherwise, don't worry about it. But yeah, I mean, going from that, so you discovered drum and bass, and you were all on a hype. Oh, Yazzie says hello. Hi, Yazzie. Yes, hi, Yazzie. I think, and also hello to everyone whose entrances we ignored as we were deep in discussion.
Yeah, sorry, you know, I just go straight into a rant about movies.
We didn't even fucking say hello properly. It was literally like, what is this? Into the film nonsense, like straight away.
Yeah, but you know that is. Yeah, I guess I've got issues like that, you know, not so much of a social animal as someone like yourself, you know, who's got the kind of easy rapport and gift of the gab with people. You know?
Just booze, bruv. It's just
maybe that's the issue. I need to graduate from the vanilla cream soda.
The vanilla cream soda works for you, broski.
I think... you know, maybe one of your ploys on this, the chats you do, is that, you know, you get people drinking so that they, as it goes on, they loosen up. And
well, to be fair, it's like I said, the prerequisite for all of these conversations I have is that these are creative mates of mine that have seen me be a drunken asshole before, and that's it, you know. And you've seen me be a drunken ass in many occasions, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know, I've got a funny relationship with alcohol because I did drink a bit when I was about 18, you know, and I found it more like a depressive, you know. If I turned into like Dean Martin when I started drinking, then yeah, maybe I would have carried on. But
that's the dream
for someone who is already kind of, you know, a bit quiet, you know, not the most social person, then for alcohol to make me kind of go even more into my shell, then it didn't seem the right thing. But then also just, yeah, being a kind of control freak, I don't like the idea of kind of being
letting go.
Yeah. And yeah, when I'd go out to events, it's like, I wanted to remember all the tunes that got played by Groove Rider or something, you know, and it's like, I still remember vividly, you know, the sets from like 98. And I worry sometimes about, you know, the people who come to see me play, do they ever remember what I've played?
Oh, well, I was going to say, one of the most vivid memories that I was thinking, and I'm sure I've said this to you before, and this is, I think, So a quick potted history. I think that you and I met through mutual friends out raving at various nights. I think at Heaven or something, and I was already on air at that point with the BBC. But I think I was on the Asian Network at that point, not Radio 1. But Reggie was a really lovely mutual friend of ours. Bless Reggie. Yeah, and then I remember somehow we ended up just being in touch, and you'd send me a bunch of remixes and dub plates that you'd be in the process of producing, which I was very, very lucky to receive. Like a lot of remixes that haven't seen the light of day that somehow we got. Nice. And I was going through your disco. In fact, I'll pull back a little bit because I've got loads to talk to you about. I'll pull back a little. But the fascinating thing was that there's this one memory of yours at Heaven where you first dropped If We Ever. And I remember that moment vividly because it was like, it sounded to me like the break from Long Dark Tunnel, which it kind of is. Yeah. And then Diane Charlemagne, who did the vocals for Inner City Life, which is like legendary. And I'm like, and it's all produced to a level that's up to date at that point, which was 2007. Yeah. Up to date, I say. Fuck it, I'm such an old man. But I remember vividly that playing and just thinking, what is this? And I could sort of picture fucking Heavens opening up and like a battle mass of angels flying out. It was nuts. It was amazing. Yeah. So I definitely remember that, even though I was fucked, bruv. So there you go.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, if you want some background on If We Ever.
And by the way, I want to just say as well, If We Ever could be the new COVID anthem.
Yeah, I mean, I do see a lot of comments from people like, oh, yeah, these lyrics are hitting differently in, 2020. Yeah, will we ever get out of here?
Yeah.
But, basically, one of the tunes that made me fall in love with jungle was Renegade Snares.
Yeah.
The Foul Play remix, but I mean, all the mixes of that tune are great.
I mean, bruv, your remix is fucking incredible. That's still bang.
Oh,
It
thank
drops,
you.
it
I mean,
drops so hard.
so, you know, I wanted to make a tune, you know, homaging or ripping off Renegade Snares for years, you know, and I tried a number of times and it just didn't work. And I often think, like, when you chase an idea, it doesn't come, you know, and that really, I assume it's like this for other people, but certainly for me, like, you know, when you sit down in the studio or, you know, in other disciplines as well, it's like you have like a thing you're trying to do, but you kind of just have to accept that the thing you're trying to do won't be the thing you actually end up doing, you know, like you're going in with a plan, but then really what you're hoping for is a happy accident to happen and you go off in another direction, and that is the thing you end up making, you know. And so that kind of kept happening, and when I was like trying to make, you know, a piano led jungle track, it just, I would end up making something else. And some point in the early 2000s, I bumped into AK1200 in Miami at the Winter Music Conference, and he was like, "Oh, I'm a big fan of your stuff, and you know, I'm good friends with Rob Playford, who runs Moving Shadow. Is there anything on the back catalogue of Moving Shadow you'd want to remix?" I was just like, "Yes."
Are you fucking kidding me? What?
And he was like, "Cool, yeah, I'll make it happen." And
Wow.
you know, that came together, and yeah, that was a great honor for me to remix the track. But you know, really, there's no way you can touch the Foul Play remix. So you're kind of on the back foot there, you know.
But I've got to be honest, man. There's remixes that I hear to this day of classic tunes, and they always they fuck up the vibe. You know what I mean? It's like you can kind of ruin the integrity of it by wanting to put your own stamp on it. And I think you handled it in that. Hearing this story, I can understand why it's such a good remix, because you understand the sort of the sacredness of the original. So you're not going to fuck with it to a degree that makes it not the same.
Yeah. I remember one of the first people I played it to was what's that?
I'm going to just play it in the background. Yeah.
One of the first people I played it to was MC Stamina.
Right.
And you know, he was like, "Oh, is this going to be regulated snares?" You know, because I think he was expecting, you know, a more conventional two-step kind of drum and bass beat, and then he was like, "Oh, actually, no, these are Renegade snares," you know. So yeah, that kind of gave me the nod that that I am on the right track with.
I mean, the fact that you kept the massive long, so the old school jungle thing of having an intro that's that fucking long before it drops. Before there's any break, it's like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, get on with it." And now you can just cue mark. But back in the day,
I never used to bat an eyelid at making a 9-minute tune, you know, and like now I'm just like, I believe in brevity, you know, and but sorry, back to If We Ever. So I had done the Renegade Snares thing, but then I was like,
so was your Renegade Snares remix? I thought it was after If We Ever. I thought
the Renegade Snares mix would have been around 2003, I think, or 2004. Is that right?
No, really?
Yeah, I think so.
I think I've got the vinyl somewhere. I don't know. Fucking Google it. Hang on, because I'm tethered to this phone literally with cables.
Yeah.
But yeah, please continue. Sorry.
So I was like, you know, I should write my own kind of piano anthem, you know, and it didn't happen. And then I don't know if it was like late 2006 or 2007, you know, I was just in the studio and I just came across...
Obviously, you're right, it's 2003, you'd fucking know. Right. Yes, of course.
There was... I just came across a pad sound on a synth, and I was just like, "Oh, that's really nice." And I just literally the first thing I played, and the thing is, I'm not even like an accomplished musician, you know, I can barely play the piano, you know. I have to constantly Google chords and stuff, you know, but just like literally the first thing I played was with this pad sound, was just dun, 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 dun. And I was like, "Oh, that's nice." Played that in. I was like, I should put a piano on top. And literally the first thing I played was da 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 da. And then I was like, "Oh yeah, that works. A vocal would be good." And literally I just grabbed a random vocal recording I had, and it happened to be the If We Ever vocal.
No
And
way.
I was like, oh, this is kind of made itself now.
So you didn't record it specifically for that tune. It was something you had lying around.
Yeah.
Like it was just a sample, or was that a session with Diane you did specifically?
Exactly. It was like a session recreation kind of thing, you know, adapting different bits of vocal. And so it literally just kind of came together without even trying, you know, which is what you want. You know, it's like those are the golden moments as I guess any kind of artist, that you feel like the work just makes itself, you know. And I mean, it's like the kind of the old cliche pretentious thing of like, you know, I am just the conduit. A conduit for a higher thing. But honestly, sometimes it does work like that, you know. And you know, I just kind of made it and thought, oh, you know, it's a nice tune. And then MC Rec happened to be visiting me, and I played it to him, and he was just like, that's it, that's the one.
It's done. It's done.
You know.
Yeah.
And it might have been the first time I ever played it out. It was at a festival in Eastern Europe, and I think I was playing after Zinc, and he was like on the stage when I played the track, and like when I played it, he just went nuts and was like running around in circles around me. So I'm on this like big stage in front of a huge crowd, and he was just like flipping out. And then when I took the plate off, it was on dub plate, and I put it in my record bag, and I saw him, he was like creeping and was like trying to take it out of my bag in a kind of way. And but you know, he kept doing it, and I was like, John was getting into like an altercation with him, like, I'll give you the tune, but not right now. I kind of need this because I've got another set to play. Exactly. Yeah. But so when I saw kind of people's reactions to it, I was like, oh, okay, this I'm onto something here. But again, I feel like it's one of those that kind of became the people's tune. You know, it was like, it wasn't that. I remember Fabio saying to me, you know, he liked the tune, but it didn't blow him away, and you know, he just thought it was a nice tune. He didn't think it was like an anthem. And then he was like, the reactions a few months later, it just kind of built, and I think it was like the audience that really turned it into this anthem.
Yeah.
And it just you know, it's one of those tunes where like, yeah, you play a track you make, and then it comes out, and you kind of keep playing it, and then you kind of stop playing it. You know, you kind of move on. But then people would get angry if I didn't play it, you know, and then so it was like 2 years of playing it, and I was like, okay, I can put that tune to bed now. And then it was just like, no, like it kept coming in waves, and it's basically a tune. There's probably been only 1 or 2 sets in the last 13 years when I haven't played it, you know.
Yeah, you're kind of fucked now. You have to play it.
Yeah, it's like those, you know, those rock bands that like have to play. I don't know.
It's like Prince not doing Purple Rain.
Right.
People get pissed off.
Not that there's any comparison, but yeah, the analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, bro, like I said, I remember distinctly hearing it for the first time at Heaven, and I was just like, yo, what the fuck is this? And then also now it's super easy. It's finally a tune that can mix into, oh man, I forgot the actual name. Fuck. Long Dark Tunnel, 21 Seconds, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Okay. What's the actual name?
It's Valley of the Shadows.
Valley of the Shadows. But the break it's the same break, right?
I think they're both derived from the Lynn Collins Think break.
Okay.
The one on Valley of the Shadows, which is from a CD that came free with, I think, Future Music issue 1. That break is on there. Yeah, the Origin and Unknown tune, as someone just mentioned. And it's got a real particular texture to how it's processed. You know, that's one of the great.
And Ant Miles, right?
Yeah, that's one of the great appeals of breakbeats to me. It's just like, they sound great in their own right, but then it's like they've there's like a family tree of like how they've been processed by different people at different times.
Yeah.
And they imbued with very different textures. So
did you
you
go
can
back to
have
that same original break, or did you reprocess what was already processed?
I think I had a different version of the think break. So there is the essence of it there, but at least to my ears, I can hear it as being different, you know, and it took me a long time to track down the actual Valley of the Shadows break, which I have used on a track on my forthcoming album, as it happens, you know, just got that in there.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's reprogrammed, right? Yeah. No, because it's that end bit. There's like, it's that
and
whole
you know,
fill,
there's like 4 different bars that get used from within the think tune.
Yeah.
So depending on what one you've got, and then how it's been cut up and processed by different people over the years, you know, they can be.
But yeah, they just sit so well together, and I was like, excellent. We don't just have to sort of use the bass line and then cut it and put another break in. It was like, okay, this is the skippy thing with works together, as opposed to, yeah, it was just fucking great. And then of course, right, we can't talk about Reggie's impact on our lives and connecting us and radio and all those things without talking about 7 Notes in Black.
Right, yeah. Yeah, you're a big supporter of that.
I fucking, bruv, you gave me that shit in the studios at the BBC, and I was like, what is this? What the fuck is this? And it started off with a string sample that was used in Kill Bill, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a tune that kind of went under the radar a bit, you know. I feel like it's something I you know, it's been interesting being on the journey of my career and just seeing how people perceive you at different times. And, you know, I feel like whatever you kind of come out of the gate with first, that is not necessarily an albatross around your neck, but like that is how people think of you, you know.
But just to interject at that point, right? So Racing Green was the first sort of, was that the first big tune of yours that everyone would demand, or were there ones before that I've missed?
No, I mean, that was on the second album in 2004. In 2002, the True Colors album, the big tune on there was Return of Forever.
Okay, right. Okay.
And, you know, the singles previous to that would get support from like Fabio and DJ Flight, you know, people in the liquid world. And that was kind of where I really kind of found people embracing me. But then with Return of Forever, that was the tune that opened it up, where suddenly Andy C, DJ Hype, you know, they were playing my tunes.
I remember at a festival where this one kid ran up and I was DJing, and he just held up a sign saying Racing Green, and I was like, fuck, okay, sure, it was wicked. So that's why I remember it so vividly. As one of your like sort of in demand.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess Racing Green was the one that kind of opened things up for me beyond the drum and bass scene. So, you know, people like Norman J and Giles Peterson playing it, and it was a kind of the big breakthrough tune. But then
so going back to going forward again to 7 Notes in Black was so that I remember sort of when there was a big hoo-ha, because like I think I got the dub and it was just 7 Black Notes was what you titled it, I think.
Right, yeah.
And then it came out eventually because there was a whole sample issue about the string section.
Yeah. So sorry, yeah, what I was saying is that, you know, people kind of knew me for liquid type tunes, you know, very melodic, upbeat, uplifting tunes. But like I kind of like, what people don't realize is that like before my first album, I made lots of jump up, and I also made lots of kind of dubby reggae influenced tunes, and then I went through a period of making kind of very dark tunes. You know, it's that thing you go through where you're trying to find your sound, and like, yeah, I absolutely did click with kind of more melodic, uplifting, liquid funk type tunes, but I always feel like there's more sides to me than that, you know, and people haven't always been as receptive to those other sides. Now, maybe I'm just not as good at making non-uplifting tunes, and that's why those tunes don't catch on. You know, I fully accept that.
I mean, I was going to say, bro, every one of your tunes that drops just puts a massive fucking smile on my face.
No, I think but I think with 7 Notes in Black, the thing was that it drops with a dark bass line and a kind of halftime beat, and that was not what people were expecting or perhaps wanting from a high contrast track, you know. So
Yeah.
I feel like it went under the radar, but I did always appreciate that you championed it. But you know, the reason I made that tune was because I was aware of the piece of music that Tarantino used in Kill Bill, and I was just fell in love with it, and then looked it up and realized, oh, actually, it's from an Italian horror film called The Psychic, directed by Lucio Fulci, who is one of the great horror directors. And so I got that soundtrack and had the original piece of music, and then I think I recreated it. One of the problems with it is that the original tune is in like 7/8 time. So you could put that in a drum and bass record, but it's going to mess up any DJ that tried to play it. So I had to like cheat and figure out a way of doubling up some of the notes to make it fit 4/4 time, and then recreated it musically. So there wasn't any samples, but it was essentially a cover. So I'd initially called it 7 Black Notes, but the original piece of music was called 7 Notes in Black, and so as a cover it had to be officially called Seven Notes in Black. So that is why the title got changed.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I always like that tune. Maybe I should, you know, go back in and do a little redux.
See, the thing, the thing the really, sorry, I'm just stuttering now because I'm listening to the tune as well. I'm just like, I'm all blown away. But the thing that occurred to me was that in the dance, dropping it, people didn't know how to move on the half step.
Yeah.
So you always have to put another shuffle on the square underneath it. So it has to be sort of, for me anyway, I had to drop it in the mix.
Yeah.
With something else underneath it, so that everyone could figure out where the one was essentially, or the
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I just see a comment there from Stylus Music saying he was always a big fan of When the Lights Go Down, and that's another track from around that time that was like a darker record that I felt like went under the radar because people were like, oh, this doesn't sound like high contrast, you know?
Yeah.
But you know, my thing has always been that one of the main reasons I called myself high contrast was exactly so. If anyone who's like, oh, that doesn't sound like something you would make or you'd play, I'd be like, I'm called high contrast. It was literally built into the concept. You were going to have, you know, contrasting things happening. You know, expect the unexpected.
See, from that whole period of your life, right? There was a point that so obviously, you know, we met through radio and all of that stuff, and you know, your remixes were the stuff of legend. They still are. There's stuff like, I mean,
thank you.
There's this one, I was listening to your catalogue, right? And there's this track called Tobacco Road on Night Gallery, which was your first non-hospital album. So after that sort of switch, which I'll again get back to. But you know what it reminded me of? Was the White Stripes bootleg you did.
Yeah.
And I used to hammer that. And it never came out, right? The White Stripes.
No, it did actually. I mean,
did it?
Yeah, remixes have always been a huge. What's that?
I feel less special now.
No. But you know, remixes have always been just a fundamental thing to me. I guess because the DJ Zinc bootleg remix of Ready or Not was one of the first tunes that really blew my mind and you know made me want to track it down. And I mean, you know, being in Cardiff, trying to track down this, you know, very rare white label bootleg remix, you know, I love the chase of that, you know, and this illicit music.
I totally understand. I'm from Birmingham at the same time. I totally understand.
Making trips on the train, you know, to London and scouring record shops trying to find it, and like eventually getting a copy on like a really badly pressed version, so that when I did actually play it out, my mate was like, it sounds like it's playing in another room. It's like the pressing was so bad that it was like there was no treble on it.
You know Makoto, right? You obviously know Makoto, right? Like he was talking about his Human Nature bootleg that got bootlegged, and there were like illegal presses, obviously. Obviously. So it must have been the same for for Fugees or not.
Talking of things like that, you know, one of the first bootlegs I did then was the Papua New Guinea remix, Future Sound of London.
Yeah.
And
So I'm going to interject because if people haven't heard this, they need to hear this.
And
this is fucking amazing. This was in 2000.
Oh, this is the White Stripes, right?
Yeah, this was in 2005, right?
Yeah, yeah. I did the Papua New Guinea, I think 2003. Yeah. But
this is an amazing drop still. Check this out. This is wicked. Yeah. Oh, you got a big smile. Oh, what the fuck? Yeah, anyway, sorry, please continue.
Just say, yeah, with the Papua New Guinea, I pressed it myself as a bootleg vinyl. You know, completely illegal, but yeah, this was the Wild West days of drum and bass. But then other people bootlegged it as well, but they had taken it from I think it was a John B set. They had ripped it from there, so it actually has another tune being mixed in at the end of the track, and they actually put that onto vinyl.
Amazing.
Which kind of boggles the mind now. I just saw someone mention as well about the "Has It Come to This" remix I did as well.
Yeah.
And see that, and they said it was that political, and I mean it kind of was.
How do you mean political?
Because well, I mean in drum and bass or music world terms. So I'd made my first album, True Colors, that had come out, and then literally the first thing I came with after that...
it does sound like body rock, to be fair.
Yeah, the first thing I came with after that was this Has It Come to This, the bootleg of the Streets. And I was still working in the record shop in Cardiff at the time, and, garage had really blown up. And things were much more tribal back then.
Yeah,
it was kind of like
silos
mods and rockers. It was
totally.
You're a junglist or you're a garage head.
So quick interjection. Just want to clarify one thing really quickly.
Yeah.
And I want to just verify this with you. Is that Armand Van Helden came to the UK to try and link with the drum and bass crew. They told him to fuck off. He went back, added the bass scene to his sound, which became speed garage, which then became garage.
Yeah.
That's the vibe as I get it, because I've read like Richard Russell's biography.
Okay.
This one has got the story wrong as far as I'm aware, but I just wanted to get that in really quickly.
Yeah. And so there was, the thing is, a lot of the people who had made jungle and drum and bass in the kind of late 90s, they had migrated across the garage, and it felt like all the energy was in the garage scene. But
then there was that political kind of like upset, like when Johnny L went from Johnny L to True Steppers to do Dave Bowers and fucking Victoria Beckham. There was beef. There was like a lot of...
Yeah. So I think a lot of people on the drum and bass side of things, were kind of annoyed at the garage scene and maybe jealous of it, or there was kind of bad blood, it felt like. And even from my perspective on the Cardiff scene, I remember I played the DJ Zinc, because the Zinc got a lot of heat for when he made 138 track.
Yeah.
And, kind of invented that breakbeat garage sound. And, a lot of people, at least anecdotally, from working in a record shop, there were, punters who were annoyed at him for doing that. It was seen as kind of like, helping the enemy or something,
Yeah, totally.
Which feels ludicrous now, but, I guess, people are passionate about their scenes and everything. And,
I mean, when you build something from nothing, you're going to be protective of it, right?
Exactly, yeah. From my perspective, I was just like, there are some great sounds in garage, and what can I take from it? Like I've got that kind of magpie mentality of like, to me there is no definitive drum and bass sound. It's almost like a hook that you can put anything you want on it,
and that was the beauty of it in the first place.
That's the joy of it. It's the total melting pot of whatever you want it to be, and we even when it goes in directions you may not personally want it to. It's amazing that the genre is so elastic that it allows for that, and still somehow holds together, and I see someone in the comments saying the same thing happened with dubstep then, again, there was like a migration of drum and bass producers to dubstep. Dubstep had all the heat.
It was interesting. You see the migration, because I see a whole new wave and then adaptation for that wave. So I see like
Yeah, yeah,
there's
as well at the same
response to that
time.
wave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
think that,
At the
like,
same
say,
time.
Marla using the Metalheads template
Yeah.
for DMZ is freely admits that. Is like, yo, that was without Metalheads, DMZ wouldn't exist. You know what I mean? So there's that friendly rivalry that we're all on the same team,
Yeah.
because there's all the major cunts over here that are gonna steal from us anyway. I forgive my terminology, because I know you're
sorry.
one
Yeah,
major as
just
well.
with that,
So,
has it come to this? So,
yeah.
I remember when Zinc did 138 track, he then did a drum and bass mix of 138 track called 174 track.
Yeah.
Which was the same bass line melody sped up the drum and bass. Yeah, and I played that in one of my sets. And I had, a small group of guys come up to me like, what are you doing playing this track?
Really? It came out on
like
Players.
giving me shit for playing this track, like, that's the enemy. And I'm like, what? I mean, this is ludicrous. I mean, it's not even a garage track.
I just want to say that though, but like Zinc is a different entity. But having Hype release 174 track on Players,
well, exactly,
means that you can't really fuck with it, because Hype's kind of OG Hackney gangster. You don't, well, not a gangster, but like he's an OG boy.
He's given the stamp of approval there.
Yeah, so you can't really fuck with 174 track even in those days.
People were very. It did feel like garage was taking a lot of the shine away from drum and bass, and I think it was upsetting, people on the ground level, and I do kind of understand that, but for me, as I say, aesthetics trump almost everything. Like if there are beautiful sounds in garage, then I'm going to be into it.
Yeah.
And I will take from that and bring it back into drum and bass, and we'll have another hybrid type thing. So.
And we'll have a jolly good time about it too.
Exactly. and so one of the guys I worked in the record shop with, Catapult Records, it was Richie Vibe V, who was the real garage pioneer in Cardiff, and certainly, for Wales, I think, and he was putting on some legendary events and became friendly with MJ Cole, and was, he got a lot of respect from the big names in that scene, because he was putting on these great parties in Swansea, I think it was, and he was the man, and he had a show on One Extra in the very early days, and he had the white label of Has It Come to This by the Streets that had the a cappella on there,
right?
And he lent it to me, and I sampled it. And I just kind of felt like there was like kind of three things happening. There's three elements. There's the Streets, Has It Come to This. There's the body rock beat, and then there's the bass line from Rip Groove Double 99,
totally.
Which in itself was a redo of the Tainted Love bass line by Soft Cell, which in itself was a cover of the Northern Soul tune Tainted Love. So I just felt like there was something. It felt like it was kind of saying something that I'm trying to make a comment. I can't really articulate exactly what it is, but it did.
I think it was. I think it was the line that drew everyone together. It's one of those tunes that sort of like everyone you're arguing about bollocks. Here you go. You're setting a line that combines everything, as you just described it.
Yeah, and I wanted to make something that kind of pulled together these disparate elements and hopefully made it, into some kind of anthem for the unification of garage and drum and bass.
It's so funny you say this. So like the whole. I mean, the garage drum and bass thing's one thing, but for me, the whole UK hip hop thing was a whole other beast. It was, everyone was struggling from these underground silos in the UK. And I'm from Birmingham, so friends of mine knew Mike when he was coming up. Right. And the stories you hear about Mike Skinner, when I was, an ex-girlfriend of mine was mates with his whole crew. And he would literally work 3 shit jobs and go and record in the cupboard in his room. All those stories are actually real. And so, but for me, being like a drum and bass purist, when I discovered it, as you say, it was like mods rockers, you were in your silo. and I dismissed all of that kind of UK hip hop really until, like, say, Silver Bullet, or that when the actual records came out before that. But really until Foreign Beggars really, you know, slapped me about a bit. It was like, okay, this is legit. But the fact that your remix brought all those disparate strands together was something quite special. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, it kind of sealed it for UK. And forgive this analogy, but it's like the Prodigy combining punk and big beat, if you want to call it that, but that aggressive sound in a way that everyone can understand.
Yeah, I'm just seeing someone's sending love from South Africa there. Hello, big up to you. Big up everyone watching right now.
Oh, Mark was on the chat from South Africa already as well.
Ah, cool.
Big up Mark. Drum and bass in South Africa.
Nice.
Is represented by Mark. It's awesome.
I was just going to say that one of the things that had the biggest influences on me was working in a record shop, you know, and being exposed to all these different genres, basically for the first time. You know, like I saw house music as the enemy of drum and bass. You know, I was like militant. You know, like I used to annoy people at house parties because I would be putting drum and bass on and refusing anything else. And the record shop opened that up to me. I mean, the other thing was,
weirdly for me, gay house clubs were like a sort of a salvation for me in Birmingham, away from the sort of toxic male idea of clubbing. I was like, okay, there's gay house clubs, and then it was like techno, and then the back rooms of techno clubs was drum and bass. So that was my trajectory. But
yeah. Talking of back rooms, like the first DJ residency I had was in the back room of a club called the Forum in Cardiff, and it was I was playing on like R&B and hip hop nights in the kind of late 90s.
Oh shit! So against like proper good levels of music in the main room.
Yeah, oh yeah, and I mean, yeah, I was playing in the back room when it was like Trevor Nelson's The Lick parties, you know, which were kind of legendary. I mean, people were traveling from Birmingham, Bristol, even London to go to these parties in Cardiff. You know, that is where I got a lot of my ideas and, you know, my kind of passion for hip hop and R&B and garage. You know, there would often be kind of, you know, R&B sets, and at the end of the night they would have a garage set. And, you know, that is where I got a lot of ideas for my own music of like, oh, that great hip hop record or R&B tune, what is that sampled? Oh, it's this soul record. And so then I would track it down and try and put it into a drum and bass track myself, or, you know, taking vocal hooks from the acapellas that were on the 12 inches that the, you know, guys I knew playing there, they would lend me the records to sample.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what's fascinating is the producers of the music, like yourself and like everyone that made all these legendary records, was so open-minded listening to all types of music. But at that point, from the 90s to the noughties, even before, actually, yeah, it was definitely the 90s. I'd say the 80s were more open, but the silos began. Like that whole house versus drum and bass, or the dubstep thing, like the genres began. I think there was a lot of money involved because you could press up a record and actually make a decent living off it.
Yeah.
You know, but also
money spoils everything.
Yeah, but there was a protection of a scene as well. Like that whole idea of like, you know, this is us. So like Fabio was on our chats. He was talking about the whole drum and bass politics that happened, which is fascinating to me, which still kind of continues to this day, I guess, but less so now that the genres have broken down. But I mean, there's a comment from Liquid Citizen saying, I hate it when people fight like, you know, fuck house music, music's, you know, for everyone. Totally agree. But there was, you know, there was a point I distinctly remember where a tune by, I think it was Dirty Phonics, went from 138 to 174 and then back. So it went from dubstep to drum and bass. And I'd never heard that in a club with a drum and bass lineup before. And that sort of genre breakdown really appealed to me, because similarly to you, I just loved all the good bits about what was around. So I think that when you were young and you find your tribe and you're like, yeah, this is my shit, you put your flag in the ground, like, this is what I believe in. And then you kind of mature a little bit and you take the best from everyone, right? And I think that aided you in the production of your remixes. Like, forgive me for going back to it, and I will move on from it. But your remixes are just fucking amazing at crossing genre barriers.
I mean,
like the Axwell remix you did, the Eric Pride's remix you did. Like there's artists you remixed that no one from drum and bass would touch, but are also so well done that transcend.
Well,
whole
I guess you know, there's I've got a very kind of iconoclastic approach to things. You know, like I don't believe in holding things in you know, you can appreciate and love things, but you know, the Beatles are just a band, as Dan the Sack said. You know, and I think if you think you can do something with it, then do it. You know, lately in drum and bass, there's been a lot of bootlegs of kind of classic tunes, and I mean, if we ever got bootlegged, you know, and some people are like, oh, you know, people should stop doing this. It's not right. You know, just kind of like trying to get a bigger name riding on the coattails of a famous old tune. But I kind of think, you know, if you do a good enough job, then it's fair game, you know.
Yeah.
And if you don't, and if it's not a great remix, well, then people are going to forget it anyway, you know.
And you know what, music's designed to be fucking consumed and then regurgitated and spat out the other side anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I can't, you know, like when Unglued bootlegged If We Ever, you know, I just felt like, well, that's the kind of thing I would have done when I was his age. What's that?
Was it flattering for you?
Well, just the fact that, I mean, he had thought to do that's great, you know, and I think a remix is a great way of giving new life to a tune. So I'm very grateful that, you know, that he did it. And, you know, I had tried to remix If We Ever myself. I did do like a VIP of it.
I'm not a fan of it, in all honesty. I prefer the original.
No, and I mean, it's not my finest moment at all, you know. And, I think it is really hard to remix your own track, you know, and I
mean, it's also hard to remix a rising like icon like Adele, and you fucking manage that.
But you know, I think I do struggle remixing drum and bass. You know, I think almost all of the big remixes I've done are for tunes from other genres, you know, and people within drum and bass scene will ask me to remix something, and I usually turn it down because a big part of the buzz I have doing a remix is taking something from outside of drum and bass and recontextualizing it.
It's like hyper sampling.
Yeah.
It's like sort of like reinterpreting a sample, but it's like on a hyper level because you have all the stems. So you can...
Exactly. Yeah. It's like deluxe sampling. Yeah. And when something's already a drum and bass track, I kind of don't know what to do with it. Really, you know, I struggle. You know,
this
I
is
hold
kind
my hands
of
up
what
there.
I mean. This is what interests me the most about your career is that, and I'm not sure how many people know about this, but you did you co-wrote the opening music to the 2012 Olympics. Shit, I just got a warning from Instagram saying we have about a minute remaining. Do you want to reconvene and continue this conversation, or are you like done?
I do have to deliver a mix for Kiss FM, but tonight.
Okay.
So we can reconvene because I'm enjoying this, but we'll have to kind of
be quicker. Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
So what we'll do,
we'll try and do less waffle.
Take a leak, and I'll come back and be more succinct. Apologies, but yeah, okay. Cool. All right, bro. I will message you when I'm back on. Everyone watching, please join us in like 2 minutes. Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome back. It's part 2 of this chat with Lincoln, aka High Contrast. I've got more ice in my beverage, and I've got more mixer, which is always a good thing because I tend to drink a bit more when I'm comfortable on these chats. I tend to forget that we're even live, so it's kind of like a bit of a video call. Hey, Barely Legal's here. Chloe, big up Chloe. She's an amazing DJ. In fact, we should do one of these with Chloe. Hi, THDC Clothing. Gav, how's it going, brav? Right, Lincoln's here. And I got live now. That's an amazing trio of people to join immediately. Hi, how's it going?
Hello again.
Hello.
Yes, and hello to Barely Legal. Yeah, she's a wicked DJ. And she did a great warm-up set for my live show that I did at Heaven, I think last year. Yeah, great DJ.
Yeah, she's wicked. She's wicked. And I'm sorry I missed that live show, the high contrast live thing.
That was an emotional one, you know, kind of going back to Heaven, and yeah, it was an incredible night. Sorry to say you missed it.
Yeah, just rub it in. Just get the dirt and rub it right in. Cheers. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw Rich Reason was in the comments as well, and
Oh shit!
yeah,
Big up Rich
big
Reason.
up to him, a Manchester legend.
Big up Forzia, big up Shlomo. God, there's lots of people just jumping on. This is awesome. Maybe I should do these later because more people seem to be.
And Boo's in the house. Yeah, one of the great young drum and bass artists of today.
Awesome. Big up Warp Spaces. I mean, we could just actually sit here for about half an hour doing big ups. Well, sorry for keeping you, bro. I thought this would be an hour, but I'm enjoying this way more too. So apologies for sort of.
Yeah, it zipped by. So
it really did. So. Right, the thing that I really want to talk about in terms of multi-genre approaches, from like high contrast, the drum and bass sort of young drum and bass whippersnapper that came out of nowhere, and then, you know, if we ever, big iconic tunes and shitloads of remixes, was the fucking Olympics. Like, how does that happen? Big up Bailey. Bailey's here as well.
Bailey, yes.
Big up Bailey.
You,
yeah, so like literally after all of that, you ended up doing the opening music for the Olympic Games in London in 2012 with Underworld.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. It is a very surreal thing, you know. And
no shit, I was genuinely taken aback by that. You know,
because you know, first of all, the first time I heard dance music was probably watching Train Spotting in 1995 when I was 15. You know, and I mean, I guess I'd heard.
Can I just say? Wait, one thing. Final hit. Left field. Okay, I'll stop talking.
Right.
I think you get it. Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. But
it was a final hit by Left Field.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
You know, I did hear the Prodigy Out of Space when I was about 12. You know, and really, you know, couldn't contextualize it, but it did kind of blow my mind and make a big impression on me. But it just kind of went to the back of my mind, and I didn't really think about. I was just so into film, I didn't think about modern music at all. You know, until then, about '95, when I saw Train Spotting, and that was the first time I saw like a nightclub, like a British club, kind of in a film, and people like raving, and you know, Born Slippy was a huge tune, and the euphoria, the uplifting vibe of that track, you know, definitely kind of struck a chord with me. And, you know, if you went through my folders of sketches of tracks I was trying to get going, you know, when I started producing drum and bass, there were loads that were like Underworld-ish, you know, type tune. You know, I'd name things like, you know, Born Slippy-ish or whatever. You know, I was trying to get that kind of vibe. And so it was very nice then when Underworld did get in touch and were like, oh, we're fans of you. You know, we'd love to try and you know.
So I just love the way you find it difficult to get the words out that we're fans of you.
yeah. I mean,
it's a head
those guys are like, you know, the stadium acts, you know, and pioneers. I mean, the stories they've got about like going to Glastonbury in like, it was maybe even like 89 or, you know, and basically taking their studio and setting it up like in a field at Glastonbury and doing like an 8-hour set, you know, with I think Orbital, you know, but like they're using floppy disks in a field of mud, you know, like at a time when, you know, dance music was not on any kind of mainstream radar.
I mean, exactly that. Like Glastonbury was the alternative sort of. It was basically Travelers, but getting dance music into it was like its own victory. It was like a whole,
absolutely,
you know,
And so, you know, Underworld were huge figures in my eyes, and when they got in touch and were like, you know, could we work on a track together? I was like, yeah, of course. And then when we started working together, we had a real rapport, and Rick from Underworld is Welsh, and Carl is a kind of honorary Welshman.
So one of my ex-producers from Six Music, random. So we were playing. Quick interjection, really quick interjection. Was that at Glastonbury 2017-16? I was working with Anushka Shankar. We went to the West Holtz or the Silver Haze stage.
Okay, yeah.
And then it turns out my ex-producer from Six Music was camping with Underworld, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And they were just over there. So
right.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Not as good as your story, but
no, it's all cool. And then yeah, we just really got along, and I worked on a track of theirs, and then they worked on a track of mine, and I just wrapped an album, the agony and the ecstasy, and literally, you know, I had the phone call from their manager saying, "What is your availability?" And I was like, "Well, I am kind of, you know, free right now." And they're like, "Okay."
Like you would have been busy for Underworld anyway.
Yeah, right. But you know, they were like, "We need, you know, someone to come and help with the music on the Olympic opening ceremony." You know, and it was like I had to kind of sign an NDA before even getting into a discussion about it. You know, but you know, they were the musical directors of that show, which was directed by Danny Boyle. You know, who I'm a big fan of as well.
Next
so,
Trainspotting reference, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it was just a dream kind of job to get, and it basically entailed working on it for 3 or 4 months, and you know, pretty much every day, and it ended up being very long hours. But you know, I had to come and stay in London. I was kind of living in Bethnal Green, but
wait, I'm in East London. Don't fuck with it, like East London, mate.
Yeah, but I'm saying that like, I basically the hours were so long that I never even got to do anything in London during that time. You know, I couldn't make the most of the city or anything.
So it didn't matter where you were, is what you were saying.
And I basically had to set up my studio in a room they provided in a complex in Bow, and you know, I was basically kind of left to my own devices to like try and write music for the opening ceremony for the athletes parade. And the thing of it was that I had to write stuff that was 120 BPM because they were getting kind of scientific about it, and they noticed in previous athletes parades, like especially at the I think it was the Greek Olympics, that Tiesto was DJing that as the music, and the tunes he played had, you know, huge trance breakdowns, and they found that like when there was a breakdown, the athletes stopped walking. They would like stand and like start taking in the you know, just the majesty of it, and like taking photographs, and it ended up being really long. And I mean, it's already a long thing having like all the countries of the world coming around in a parade, and so then if everyone's stopping for a selfie, you know, it got out of hand, you know. And then they also found that the trance tunes were like 140, and that was kind of a bit too fast for a walking pace.
Right.
And so people...
Oh, you'd half to 70, so you'd struggle.
Yeah. So they were like, they you know, after some experimentation, they were like, we need tunes that are 120 BPM and no breakdowns. You know, so that was the kind of remit I was given, and they were like, you know, you could take Underworld tunes and remix them to 120, and you know, kind of do what you want with it, or you know, write original material, just see how much you can make. And you know, we need to make enough so that we don't know how long it's going to run exactly. Yeah. You know,
and
but
speed
they were right,
is kind of the point in athletics, right? So it's got to be...
Yeah, I mean, it ended up being like one of the most prompt athletes parades in history, I think. So the science did work, you know. But basically, I found myself working on my own on those tunes a lot. So it was just like being at home, really, in my normal process. So, and I couldn't tell anyone that I was working on the Olympics. You know, it was all, everyone was sworn to secrecy, and you know, there was like the tabloid newspapers trying to break people to like reveal tidbits about what was going on there, you know. And but they did really, you know, keep a lid on it. And it was only in the the week of the actual ceremony that I went to like the dress rehearsal on the Tuesday and actually got to see, you know, what about like 80% of what was going to happen on the night, you know.
That's
like,
amazing.
oh
That
my
you got
God,
to see
like,
that. That's just amazing.
it was just like mind-blowing, the scale of it, you know. And then also being able to kind of see backstage what was going on, just like, okay, there's a group of like 100 people in these costumes, you know, waiting to go on, and it was just this incredible feat of people management and everything else. You know, it was an amazing thing to be part of. Yeah, it did almost kind of break me, you know, like
dude, you're doing a fucking like a national fucking representative thing. Also, okay, there's 3 points in it. Okay, so I can imagine it breaking you because of the weight of the burden on your shoulders from this.
The kind of the pressure in the last 2 weeks of it, you know, was immense. And what really added to it was that you know, I had to finish, say, this tune, then it had to export it, had to put it onto a hard drive. Someone then, some kind of courier, had to then take it to the grounds of the Olympic Stadium, where you had to get through like military level security,
yeah,
with the bomb squad and everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that process would take like 45 minutes to an hour to get through, and then that had to, you know, go through the building to get to like the headquarters, where there was the guy who was like in charge of it all on the night, who had to ingest that piece of music into his system, which is like a bespoke system for triggering music at huge live events. He does all the events like this, and that takes time, you know. And we basically got to a point where we're like, hang on, you know, you could work out the amount of time involved, and it's like, if we don't finish this in 10 minutes,
we're fucked.
Yeah, you know. And
you couldn't have just sent a link to a fucking Wii transfer file.
No, I mean, I don't know if it was to do with internet security.
I think security, probably, yeah.
But things had to be delivered
in a certain way,
in person, and it had to be ingested into a bespoke audio system, you know. And it was like in that last week, it was just like, wow, you know, this is getting down to the crunch. But it all did work out, and it all, you know, it did all come together. And I mean, Danny Boyle, I mean, just an incredible guy. I mean, he didn't seem to break a sweat through the whole thing. I mean, you've got the amount of things he had to deal with, and like, you know,
and queuing motherfuckers on time. And also, I've got to say, one of the things that blew me away as a fucking nerd, which I'm sure you'll appreciate, is oh fuck, his name now has escaped my memory. The inventor of the fucking of the World Wide Web, Tim Berners-Lee.
Okay, Tim Berners-Lee.
So getting that like that cube computer, or get the next computer online and live tweeting that, and then you could fake it, but they actually did it.
Yeah.
Tim Berners-Lee. Sorry, that's right. Thank you for the comments. Tim Berners-Lee on a next computer that he built the World Wide Web on, putting "This is for everyone" and then it transmitting across the stadium.
Yeah.
Is a whole other technical feat that I couldn't even fathom.
I mean, there's just so many things they did that are just kind of mind-boggling, and the fact it all kind of came together and went without a hitch. You know, it really feels like it was one of the, you know, the finest moments of Britain, you know, kind of coming together and achieving something, you know.
And I'm going to be a little bit like, okay, so there's 3 ways we can go from this. We can go from like from this point, we can go multi-genre and your career. We can go political and talk about Boris because of what happened then at that point, and his whole embrace of multiculturalism, and then his subsequent denial before that. Or we can go on to that's just 2 choices.
So what was the first one?
I forgot the first one too. The second one, obliterated everything. Yeah.
I mean,
sorry. Wait. I remember what they were. Danny Boyle was the third one with Trainspotting 2 and your involvement in that.
True.
And
yeah. I mean,
awesome.
yeah, like politically, I mean,
I think that's the big elephant in the room, right?
what is there to say? I mean, the state of things. I guess a lot of people are just kind of sick of even talking about any of it at this point, you know.
So let me ask you an entertaining question about the political aspect. And also, we all know Boris is whatever he is, but what was fascinating to me was that before the Olympics, that there was all the funding for various things got cut. Olympics happened, the funding tap was open, then got shut again. You know, and we've seen that happen whenever it serves a certain function. But I'm so glad that people like you were involved at that point. It made me genuinely feel proud. I was like, fuck, thank God.
I think that the thing that made the Olympics ceremony so great was that at the bottom line was that Danny Boyle had the final say. So, you know, there were, you know, politicians, you know, sticking their oar in and trying to, you know, I don't know all the ins and outs, but I know he had a hard time politically pulling it together. But the fact is, he had the final say on it and was able to make the calls on all the creative decisions. So, you know, he was able to say, well, Underworld are the guys I want, and if they say High Contrast is the guy they want, then I'm all for it. You know, and Danny Boyle did say he would have loved to drop a drum and bass tune in the Athlete Parade, and you know, we did talk about that, and I did try and fight that corner, but he said it was too unpredictable for how the athletes would have reacted, and he was worried that they would stop and have a rave and it would delay the whole thing. You know?
And the Has It Come to This remix would have been fucking perfect. That would have been the conversion to the UK, right? They're like, fuck. That's fucking
but
UK.
I mean, it is a weird thing that, like,
could you imagine? I'm sorry, I could just imagine that. That would have been fucking brilliant. All the athletes suddenly just bust out into a rave. That'd be wicked.
I know. But like, yeah, all the drama that has happened in Britain since then, you know, with Brexit and all the divisiveness that has come with that, you know, it's like, can't we get back to that 2012 era, you know?
Well, that's the point. I think Boris knows what he's fucking doing, because he clearly weaponized our strengths, which is our culture and you guys, to fucking sell to the world that this is Britain, and then ultimately close it for his own nefarious fucking deeds. So, to make this more jolly, if you had to retrain, what would you retrain as?
Well, if the evil Tories are going to force me to retrain, it's a tricky one.
And also, film director is out, because that's a creative industry.
I struggle. I mean, I'm so grateful to drum and bass for, you know, giving me, you know, if it sounds pretentious, you know, a sense of purpose in the world. You know, it's like I think I you know, may have struggled with it without.
Sorry, I'm going to say. Piscean Music says original athlete material.
I know, I saw that.
That's excellent.
Good pun. Yeah. But yeah, you know, I am really grateful to the drum and bass and the whole scene for kind of accepting me, because, you know, I do have like an odd outlook on life and things, and it's found a home in the drum and bass world, you know. And yeah, I mean, I like to think I could have made it in the film industry, and maybe if there is still such a thing as the film industry post-COVID, you know, I would still love to make movies.
You've got 2 votes for school teacher in the comments.
Yeah, I mean, I've got that look kind of going on. I've even got like a corduroy jacket with the elbow patches ready. But I guess I do kind of like talking about, you know, art and creativity and movies and music. So maybe I could be some kind of teacher.
You mean a teacher that propagates the things that are banned in the new UK?
Yeah, I'd like to be an underground.
So a subversive underground teacher.
Yeah.
But that's it. Okay, so moving swiftly on, right? Because we've
Except
got
I will say the thing that I am slightly kind of retraining myself, but not along the government guidelines, is, you know, I am trying to get my head around 3D software and also animation, 2D animation, because that is an outlet for kind of my storytelling, filmmaking, you know, and so I am kind of threatening to make my own kind of animated series.
Did you do all the artwork for your new stuff for your new album?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why. So it's another creative outlet for your own work.
Yeah, yeah, and I know visuals have always been a big part of my music, you know, and it's like I see sound as color and imagery in my head.
Do you have
know?
synesthesia or not?
Yeah, I guess I do. You know, I know a track's working if it gives me a sense of a strong color in my mind. You know,
That
so,
explains a shitload. That explains why
yeah.
all of your big tunes work so well.
So, like, to me, If We Ever is yellow. You know, and then ironically, Racing Green is actually red.
So you're colorblind as well. Yeah.
So,
or the inverse of colorblind, I guess.
And like, you know, I see drum beats in my head as like machines, like kind of pistons pumping.
Okay.
So like that is the great appeal of jungle to me, that the drums have such texture that I'm kind of like salivating at the image in my head of these machines moving as you hear the amen break or the think break. You know, they each make a different machine.
So you can see the emotional resonance it has on people, essentially.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on other people. It's more like wires crossed in my head, and so like I see amens as a visual, as a physical thing in my head, and it's like appealing to me what I'm seeing. So I like working with them.
Does that work when you make the music too, or is it only after the fact? Or you just sort of relentlessly make it like you're throwing shit at the creative thing?
Yeah, that's it. You know, when you're like trying to make a track. I mean, I see someone commenting saying True Colors, and yeah, absolutely. That's why the first album was called True Colors, because each track was like a distinct color. But it's like, yeah, when you start a track, it's like you're in a kind of gray, swirling kind of world, and you're pulling things out and putting them together, and slowly you start seeing shades coming and the machinery forming, and you know it's kind of finished when you get the complete color kind of, you know, overwhelming you.
What fascinates me is you say machinery, which is a 3D object, right?
Yeah.
So you see things in objects from the audio.
Yeah, it's like there's two things. It's like a track will have an overall color that is almost like a wave of color that is filling my vision, and then the drums specifically, you know, and it's like I love house music, but I don't get the same visual from house music. What I see is like a kind of a black trampoline material kind of ducking with the 4/4 kick drum, you know, and that is not as visually interesting to me as the machines I see from breakbeats.
Because the polyrhythms trigger different parts of your brain, I imagine.
I guess so, and you know, the more kind of clinical modern drum and bass sound, you know, doesn't give me as much as a visual rush as the original jungle sound, you know. But like, say, like Culture Shock snares, they're so delicious to me. The way those snares have a kind of like this snap to them, that it's not forming a machine like the breakbeats are, but it's given me this like kind of knocking thing
that makes
I like.
So much sense, and that's, like I said, that's why all of your remixes tend to work in the dance, because it's an emotional connect that you seem to have a visual insight on.
I mean, the other paradox is that I remember, you know, my first really big tune was Return of Forever, and I was still like a resident DJ in Cardiff at that time. And I remember the promoter saying to me when I played that track for the first time, he was like, "You've completely captured the exact sound you want to hear when you're on ecstasy.
Right.
I know you didn't want to mention drugs, you know, but
we kind of avoid
but
any sort of narcotic
you know,
reference, but it's fine.
and
Yeah.
he was just like, "How have you done that? Because you're like a complete straight edge guy who's, you know, doesn't drink and has never taken any drugs, and yet you've tapped into this sound." And I was like, "I don't really know. All it is that when I'm making tracks, I'm trying to make myself rush and feel euphoria. So I guess if the tune is giving that effect to me when I'm completely sober, then if you are on something, it's going to be turned up
But
to 11.
I think maybe you have like an X-Men-like quality where you can see emotion, and then the thing you're transmitting to everyone else is what they would feel is
Yeah,
slightly
maybe.
heightened on something
Yeah,
else.
and I mean, an interesting thing that my man Alfred Hitchcock said here, you know, there's an interview with
Yeah.
Hitchcock where he says, you know, his dream would be to have a machine that had these big buttons on them, and each button was labeled a different emotion that would put that emotion on the audience. And he was like, he'd rather not have to tell a story or get bogged down with actors or all the mechanics of a film narrative, that he could just press these buttons and it's like the audience feels anxious. Now they feel relief. Now they feel euphoria. Now they're laughing. Now they're scared. You know, and I was just, when I saw that interview with him from like the 60s, I think, I was just like, well, that's kind of like being a producer or a DJ. You're literally pressing buttons that are triggering emotions in the audience. And so maybe Hitchcock would have been a drum and bass producer.
Or a really good designer drug creator.
Could be.
I think that's fascinating. So anyway, Olympics, moving on, your grasp of emotions, and I wanted to get onto, well, we kind of have to because it's obligatory, but your new stuff, your new work, and your sort of, you left hospital in 2012. No, wait.
Around, the process began then, and I kind of officially left to start 2013.
And then your album after that was like completely multi-genre, and I was really shocked to see Tiesto and Underworld, and well, not Underworld on your album, but Tiesto on your album too, and different genres, and
that was on the last one with Hospital. Actually,
no, but was it not Night Moves?
Yeah,
no,
no, that wasn't on Night Gallery. No,
okay.
I mean, yeah, I think after leaving, you know, a specifically drum and bass label, I kind of like extracted myself from that situation, and you know, kind of had to find myself again. And I think the Night Gallery album, it's like half of it is drum and bass and half is other genres, and that's just how it worked out, you know.
And also, you're on the soundtrack for Trainspotting too, so fuck off. Many dreams sort of ticked in that one track.
Yeah. I mean, so with Night Gallery, I think it was like, you know, maybe I didn't have a plan like that. Like, oh, I'm only going to do half drum and bass and half other things. It was just a natural reaction, perhaps on a subconscious level, to kind of trying to find my voice outside of drum and bass and see what I could do in other genres.
But with all due respect, you did that with the Olympics, right? So that already happened in 2012.
I guess that was the beginning of that process.
Yeah.
And then around that time as well, just before Night Gallery, I co-produced one of Underworld's studio albums. So, you know, that was a whole album without any drum and bass on it. So I was definitely kind of testing the waters and getting inspiration. You know, I mean, the Underworld guys have been huge inspiration from me, and I learned so much from them producing an album with them. I guess like Night Gallery was like the trying out lots of things, and one of the tracks on there was that tune Shotgun Mouthwash, you know, and as I think you know, but maybe not everyone else knows, you know, I did used to MC in the very early days.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the loo. No, actually,
no,
you know what?
I'm not dropping any bars.
No, you are. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug this. I'm going to black the camera. I'm going to go to the loo and black the camera. And I'm going to talk to you continually. So you can give us a couple of bars.
Of what now?
Of anything. Give us your first MC bars.
I mean, I think the first lines I wrote, and you got to remember, I would have been like 16. You know, it was something like, "Are you ready to rumble? This MC is about to mumble. Everyone in the room jump and stumble like we're all in the jungle."
It's amazing. It's amazing.
You know,
I mean,
Hitchcock says no.
Hitchcock says no, but you know what? It worked because you
And
found a new career.
I think everyone else said no as well. And I quickly realized that MCing wasn't my strength. But I did MC in a kind of a rock, metal, hardcore kind of band.
Bro,
locally.
I mean, but just to clarify, that was you on vocals for that track?
Yeah, so I was in that kind of punkish band, whatever, when I was 16, 17. And then, the band fell apart and drum and bass took over in my life. And then all these years later, I think the Night Gallery album was like, I made it when I was 35. And so I was kind of reflecting a bit on my past and
like pre-midlife crisis vibes.
Yeah. And then, just one night, I just made this weird rock beat, and I just got on the mic, and it was literally a stream of consciousness, and it just kind of came out. And I didn't. It was just like boom, there is this tune, and it's got. I didn't know what the hell to do with it.
Yeah.
It just had this really weird energy that I liked, and so I sent it to Underworld. Just like, what do you think of this? I mean, I guess there is an Underworld influence on it. Carl's kind of stream of consciousness lyrics. It was also inspired by a song my dad had written when he was in the rock and roll world in the 70s.
So you've just hit on two things now. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you again. Your dad used to manage who?
Shakin' Stevens.
That's fucking so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah. So I kind of grew up surrounded by rock and roll, and I think that it's that thing of like, whatever your parents are into, you either embrace it or you completely rebel. And that was one of the reasons that I had no interest in music and growing up, and went totally into film, because music was the thing that my dad did, so it just felt I needed to kind of do something different or rebel or whatever,
Right.
and so I came to music late. I mean, I didn't listen to the radio until I was 16.
Wow, really?
I didn't know what hip hop was until I was 16. I had no idea.
So it's literally like you want to do anything apart from what you were growing up with, because that's the norm, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Wow, I never knew that, bro. Fuck.
So anyway, then all these years later, I came out with this weird rock beat, and I gave it to Underworld, and without telling me, they passed it on to Danny Boyle. And I didn't know that he was working on Trainspotting 2. And as it happens, the lyrics I came out with just lined up so well with what was going on with the characters in Trainspotting. I mean, the first line is, it's the beginning of the end, so you might as well set fire to your friends.
Well, Trainspotting 2.
Yeah, I'm Trainspotting 2, yeah. So that was just a completely, random vocal that came out of my head, but then it lined up perfectly with the themes in Trainspotting 2. So, again, it was a project in total secrecy. So they didn't tell me that they'd even given it to Danny Boyle, or that he was actually thinking of opening Trainspotting 2 with that tune, and I hadn't realized as well that there was a similarity to kind of the feel of Lust for Life in Trainspotting 1. It had the same kind of relentless rock stomp to it, and I didn't find out until literally just a couple of weeks before they were locking the edit on Trainspotting 2, because Rick didn't want to disappoint me. And
Who's Rick?
Oh, sorry, from Underworld.
Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah. He didn't want to say, oh, your tune might be in Trainspotting 2, it might be the opening song, and then it not be in there, so he held off as long as possible, and then was like, we've almost locked it. It looks like it's in the movie, and so as a lifelong film fan, and Trainspotting being such a pivotal film for me, personally, I mean, to be part of Trainspotting 2 was just amazing.
See, when I saw the video for Shotgun Mouthwash, I
Yeah,
was just like, okay, Lincoln's mouthing these words, and the accent sounds, like you said, Iggy Popish, like a little
yeah,
bit American.
yeah.
There's no, you don't have an overly Welsh accent, just like I don't have an overly Birmingham accent. But like, where did that voice come from?
Well, I think one of the things.
If you didn't know it was for a film, where did that come from? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's. I was like going through this phase. I guess I hadn't done it for a while, where I was kind of experimenting in the studio, where I was trying to play characters on each track I was making. You know,
Like Bowie.
right? And on that tune, I'd just come up with this idea of a kind of obnoxious, nihilistic, punkish.
I want to say Rice Stars in the comments because I could see Big B spitting them bars.
Yeah, and the thing is, my dad would always do like, you know, he couldn't sing, but he would like attempt to do kind of Bob Dylan-esque singing, rapping kind of poetry things on certain songs, you know, and he would always adopt an American accent, and so I was kind of referencing what my dad used to do on tunes, messing around, you know. So that's kind of where the accent came from, and
because it sounds completely badass. So when I watched the video, and the video is pretty graphic, because like it's
yeah, I mean with the music video, it was like I wrote the treatment for that, and I wanted to direct it, but kind of realized that I needed to be in it, and I wanted it to be done cinematically. That I needed to get a pro director to do it. So
oh, you relinquished some control.
I relinquished the control. See, I have matured somewhat over the years, and this guy who came on my radar, Favorite Color Black, is his kind of creative name, and you know, he's directed lots of great videos, and he totally got it, and I knew that he would deliver a cinematic video, you know.
That's a good point. Someone in the comments, Rob Williams, is saying Danny Boyle didn't offer.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he's got bigger fish to fry than
there's a whole other movie to film.
But an interesting point for you and maybe other nerds is that the lens that that music video was shot on was one of the lenses from Star Wars.
That's so gangster.
Yeah, I was very impressed that Chris, Favorite Color Black, pulled that off, you know, and so it gave it that kind of vintage luster.
So the video treatment you wrote, for anyone that hasn't seen this video, was that you're basically in a working men's club, like a traditional old sort of like maybe 80s, you know, suburban club, a social club, and you guys are playing this song, and you get fucked up, like you're getting punched, kicked while singing the vocals, and then you get stabbed, which I was like, yo, what the fuck? And you keep going, you get punched in the face, your glasses are all broke up.
I mean, I guess the video was kind of like an anxiety dream, and you know, one of my kind of fears, I guess, of like being torn apart by a mass of people, you know, like to get kind of dark and intense now. But you know, I think I'm probably traumatized from the time when I was an MC in punk bands and dealing with hostile audiences, you know, and like you know, I did play some venues like that, you know, that were like just the back rooms of pubs. And you would get people who had just kind of wandered in and who weren't punk fans or whatever, and didn't appreciate it. And then also kind of traumatized by the times when I used to MC at drum and bass events. And, you know, some people in the crowd who wanted to be MCs as well, you know, kind of shouting me off stage, you know, and getting kind of aggressive, you know, how come you've got the mic, you know, and I guess that did kind of traumatize me as a teenager.
The crabs in the barrel phenomenon.
What's that?
The crabs in the barrel phenomenon.
Yeah.
Where like where some crab would get out the barrel, but then everyone else would pull the crab down to prevent any progress. Which is like it's quite a phenomenon.
So I mean the idea to me was just the kind of anxiety of a hostile audience, you know.
It was beautifully done. I didn't realize that was you on vocals, in all honesty, until just now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in my live band, we've done that. We toured that song a lot.
Sorry, is that the show I missed? Yeah. Okay. Wicked.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
bastard. Okay. Yeah. Very good. Rub it in even more. Excellent.
You know, I would try and do those vocals live. You know, and I think there were a number of confused faces in the audience. You know, where people like, wait, is he actually this American guy? You know,
I never knew Lincoln was American. I thought he was Welsh. What the fuck is going on?
But it's like, you know, I'm playing a character, and you know, High Contrast is a character that I play. You know, like that's why I use a name rather than my real name. You know, it's like I like theatricality and kind of, you know, creating a character. It's storytelling and you know.
It's kind of liberating too. I mean, you've seen that interview with Bowie and Paxman, right? I keep talking about this every week with people I like with mates I speak to. It's like Bowie and Paxman talking in 1999 or maybe about 98. It's a Newsnight interview. It's just fucking amazing, and it sets so many precedents about, you know, occupying characters and artistic relationships with audiences and how the internet's going to change it. It's just, I'll send it to you after this. It's just amazing. It's amazing. So, right, because I know you're busy, so I'll sort of round this up because
I've got to finish this mix.
No, I'm sorry, bro. I'll quick it up. But so, new album. It got delayed because of vinyl issues.
Yeah.
But at least it's out for fucking Christmas. Like me and Pav's, like Pavan's new record from Foreign Beggars got pushed because we missed the cut-off for December delivery.
Annoying,
but yours is coming out for December delivery. So
December the 4th, the new album, Notes from the Underground. And, you know, I mean, oh God, I mean, it's a bigger subject that, you know, we could probably have another hour talking about where...
Mate, you've got a fucking mix to deliver. I don't. I could
you know, like, what,
you know
what I mean? what does underground mean in 2020? You know, like, is it even possible to have underground music in the age of the internet? You know, where it's
this
the
Bowie interview, you'd really enjoy this Bowie interview,
right?
Exactly.
So when I say it's Notes from the Underground, I'm talking about kind of the underground as a phenomena of the kind of late 80s, early 90s. You know, that was what I was drawing from. And I was kind of imagining, what if I was a few years older and had actually been able to be a producer in the 90s? What would I have made in 94, 95? And so that is the kind of concept for the album. It's like, what you know, kind of the wish fulfillment, you know, because I guess everyone has that thing. Whatever era you're born in, you're always like, oh, I wish I'd been born in that era before and I could have been part of that. You know, like the people in the 70s were like, oh, we missed out on the summer of love in the 60s, you know. And yourself?
Respectfully, I have a question though. I'm not so sure because
no,
because there was like metal, then going to drum and bass, and then there was Prince throughout all of that. So there was bridges that cross genres.
Yeah, of course. But like for me, I just missed the whole kind of what I see as the golden era of jungle and raves of you know 93, 94, and you know getting into it in the late 90s. I was like, oh, I can't believe I'm 5 years late to the party, and you know, warehouse raves aren't happening, and you know, I've missed out on all of that. You know,
and the Criminal Justice Act has happened, so there's super clubs.
Now, you know, there's probably, you know, people who are 20 now who are like, oh, but yeah, what about that era of the late 2000s when, you know?
And you know what, kids right now, like I was saying this to a friend of mine, we had an amazing rave stretch. Kids right now are missing that whole fucking experience because of COVID and stuff.
And I mean, I feel so bad for everyone who is in that kind of peak era of like late teens, early 20s that is losing a year at least now due to COVID.
Yeah.
But I guess you have to think that dark times do result in some of the best of times afterwards. And
The art is phenomenal from the dark times.
I'm just kind of thinking when it does all kick off again and events are happening, I mean, it may well actually be like it's 1992 again or something, like it could be a whole new era of raving and a re-energizing of the whole electronic music scene.
I think it probably will. But so I cut you off rudely before your album description, but I like the idea of harking back to that free living past and then perpetuating it to the future, which is essentially what we talked about, sampling and everything anyway. You're basically providing that sort of relay function that music does,
Yeah. And I'm also wary of not just being a kind of I've always believed in recycle rather than revival, so I've tried using old technology, the Akai samplers from the 90s that the original Jungle was made on. But at the point at which it's feeling too limiting, I'm happy to kind of ditch that and embrace the modern technology. And, I don't want it to be like holding back the tunes in any way. Of course, sometimes the limitations are what make something special. Yeah. But, I've tried to strike a balance where I'm not just, obsessed with recreating the past. I am trying to embrace the past, but make something that hopefully feels resonant and relevant for today.
Well, let's think it's like a relay catapult, right? Like you relay a thing, you catapult it to the next generation, they will discover their thing, they'll catapult it again into the future, right?
Yeah.
I think that, once we can all rave again, I think it'd be something quite special. I agree with you. Yeah, man. And I can't when the fuck is your album actually out, by the way? I've got two.
So it's out on December the 4th now.
Okay. Yeah. What? So like a good 2 months away?
Nah. No, it's less than that. Come on.
Are you still making like remixes, by the way? Any
yeah,
other dub plates
yeah.
that I can hassle you for?
Yeah. I will have to send you something.
Well, we'll talk offline about that.
Offline, yeah.
Offline chatting.
Yeah, but yeah, it's still remixing. I mean, that's one of the great things about being a producer during this whole pandemic is that at least you can keep making tunes, and you can stay creative.
I mean, you can't test drive them, but there's one remix of yours, right? I think I played this on Radio 1 once, and then got into trouble for it by then management. But it was the remix that fuck, my computer's just slowed down. So do you remember that Scream In For The Kill?
Yeah.
Right. So like LaRue In For The Kill, the Scream remix was a big thing. It just blew dubstep wide open into the commercial world. And then I'm telling everyone watching, not you, Link. But then Link remixed it, which is
I did like a kind of jungle mix of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of wanted to play it, but my computer's just frozen up. You bastard! Go on. But what?
I'll tell you something now that people don't realize that I find kind of interesting. But with that LaRue In For The Kill, they wanted me to remix that track.
Okay.
But my management at the time didn't even tell me and turned it down.
It was one of those
without telling me, and so I didn't get to remix it officially, and
that's heartbreaking. I never knew that, bro. Sorry for bringing that shit up. Sorry.
Yeah, but
sorry, man.
The Scream remix that happened, then that broke dubstep and kind of changed the trajectory of dance music at that time.
It changed, the whole of...
And he did this most incredible remix. I mean, I actually think he did a better remix than I would have done. So
But then you took his remix and then remixed it.
Yeah, and then I did my own bootleg of his remix.
Which I've got.
But that was before I realised that they had wanted me to remix it in the first place. But you know, that's just by the by.
That's the lament, man. And I think, you know, those laments. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, I think I played it at Fabric a few times, and then it just never saw the light of day. It was just one of those cheeky bootlegs.
It's so good, bro.
Thank you.
It's so good. I like the sort of pitch shift on the. It's
fucking
wicked.
Yeah.
It's wicked.
Yeah. Tonal drums. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna have to go, man. I've really got to do this.
Well, look, bro. Thank you so much for joining me, man. Thank you for everyone, joining us this evening.
It's been very good chatting with you, and thanks everyone tuning in, and we should do it again sometime.
I hope your mix goes well. I'm sure there'll be a part 2 to this. I think we can go deep.
Yeah, I know. Like it feels.
You know,
like
I pulled this out.
What? Hang on, I can't see it. It's backwards. I can't read it.
Wait, battle for honor and humility. The Japanese pressing.
Right. Kill Bill.
Yeah, the Japanese pressing.
Wow.
Of the original vinyl. Yeah. I had it ready. We could go deep in some of the geeky shit one day.
Yeah.
Well, big luck, bro. Good luck for your mix. Thank you for everyone joining us, and we will talk offline about other things that we're not allowed to talk about on here. Big love, bro.
Part 2, yeah. Part 3. Yeah.
Thank you, bro. Goodbye, Alfred. Bye. That's it. Reference.